Thank you, Emery. Welcome all to our regular open board meeting for Tuesday, April 26th, 2026. We're meeting for the first time since the passing of Chief Rhonda Larrabee, a remarkable leader whose legacy will continue to inspire many. Chief Larrabee was a passionate advocate for education. She believed deeply that education, not just about academics, but about empowerment, identity, and belonging, and creating opportunity. She worked tirelessly to ensure that students, especially Indigenous youth, had access to meaningful learning while staying connected to their culture, their history, and their community. One of the many ways that she showed this commitment was in the way that she welcomed others. Whether it was students, staff, or trustees, Chief Larrabee made people feel seen and valued. She greeted them with warmth, openness, and genuine care, creating spaces where everyone felt that they belonged. These moments of welcome weren't just gestures, they reflected her belief that strong communities are built on respect, inclusion, and relationships. She was friendly, approachable, and always supportive, someone people could turn to for guidance, encouragement, or simply a listening ear. She also demonstrated a fierce strength. She was unwavering in her advocacy, standing firm for people and values. And she made sure that we knew that this was our job as trustees. She faced challenges with courage and determination, did not back down when it came to what was right, and expected that of those around her. Chief Rhonda Larrabee showed us that every leadership has heart and strength, lifting others up while standing strong in the face of adversity. Her legacy will live on in the communities she strengthened, the students she inspired, and the countless lives that she touched. Start by adopting the agenda. There is a recommendation that Board of Education School District creating the agenda for the regular school board meeting. Recommend. Second. And all in favor. Thank you. Agenda item 3 is approval of the minutes. There is a recommendation that the Board of Education School District 40 Westminster approve the minutes as distributed for the March 10th, 2026 regular school board meeting. Any changes?
Carlson? Yes, I'd like to propose amendment to include a brief question period prior to item 4.
Oh, are we going back to adopting the agenda?
Sorry, yes, sorry.
Okay, can you repeat that?
Sorry. I'd like to propose an amendment to include a brief question period prior to item 4, similar to what has been done previously when members of the public come to speak to specific items.
Consider that moved. Is there a second there? Thank you. And all in favor? Thank you, trustees.
Just a point of clarification, are we moving the entire question period to before, or are we adding an additional question? Okay,
thank you. Back to the minutes of March 10th, 2026. That motion was moved and seconded. Are there any changes required to the minutes? Okay, all in favor then? Thank you. Is there any business arising from the minutes? That is no. And we are at the added question period. In 1 second here. I will read our policy 7.1 on public participation. The board welcomes and provides for public participation by members of the community. The board believes that it is essential for improving decision-making and creating more inclusive, effective, and sustainable outcomes. The board expects all persons attending this meeting to conduct themselves in a respectful manner. Members of the public may ask questions and seek clarity on matters that arose during the board meeting. Proceeding the board meeting. The time limit for comments and questions will be 3 minutes, excluding any responses to questions from trustees. So I will ask if any members have questions at this point. Any people present have any questions? If you do, just raise your hand. Nothing in the room. And I'm just looking online. We'll give kind of like 30 seconds or so for anyone to indicate that they would like to. So you might not be able to.
I can use it on her. There's nobody there. Yeah, I think we should someone.
Okay, thank you. Next agenda item is presentations. There are none. And, oh, are you here for Janet?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Our next item is delegation. The floor is yours to share a presentation on the day of mourning, and you have 10.
Thank you. So good evening. My name is Sarah Weathered, and I am a delegate of the New Westminster District Labor Council and a proud first vice president of the New Westminster Schools. Each year, the New Westminster District Labor Council presents to city councils and school boards in our region to seek their support and recognition of April 28th as the day of mourning for workers killed and injured on the job. We believe workplace health and safety is everyone's responsibility. This year, workers across Canada are reminding our community that psychological health and safety is our responsibility. In 2024, the most recent year we have data for, 146 people in British Columbia died as a result of their work. There were 6,592 claims recorded for serious injury. Each of these numbers is a worker, a family impacted, a life changed forever. Too many families lose loved ones to occupational diseases, and we know those numbers are not the whole story because they only include those fatalities accepted by the workers' compensation system. In cases of workplace exposure to toxic chemicals, diseases like COVID-19 or material like asbestos, effects only become apparent months, years, or decades later. Our thoughts and sympathy go out to the families of these workers. These are people in your community, and the impact from the workplace injury goes far beyond time away from work. We can and we must do better to keep workers safe at work and support injured workers and their families. We were pleased to see advances this year in tower crane safety. Just last month, the government of BC announced that they are introducing a mandatory crane licensing and permitting program through WorkSafe BC to strengthen safety oversight. 7 fatalities involving cranes in BC the past 5 years prompted action to improve standards and accountability. Crane operation is high-risk work with significant safety hazards, meaning failures can have catastrophic consequences. This action to improve training and accountability did not happen without the solidarity of the labor movement, and especially the efforts of the BC Building Cranes and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 115, who participated in the Ministry of Labor's crane safety table, along with industry and technical experts. Unions in BC have fought hard for gains in ensuring appropriate WorkSafe BC coverage, but we know prevention is the most important action we can take, and licensing, permitting, regulation, and strong enforcement are proven tools for reducing risk. As union members, we also call on governments at all levels to remove barriers to joining a union, to ensuring all workers have the protection and rights that come with the union card, because strong unions make safe workplaces. Accountability is critical when it comes to health and safety at work, as these new requirements demonstrate. That is why this year we are also reminding everyone that not all hazards are visible. We must ensure that psychological health and safety is included in efforts to make workplaces safer. Invisible injuries can include things like stress, anxiety, burnout, and chronic pain, and hazards can include threats to air quality and airborne chemicals. Mental disorder injuries are caused by significant work-related stressors, including bullying, harassment, or one or more work-related traumatic events. Nearly half of working Canadians say their job is the most stressful part of their daily lives, and 70% of workers are concerned about the psychological health and safety of their workplace. In 2023 alone, more than 8,500 workplace mental health injury claims were accepted by compensation boards across Canada. And we know the numbers are likely much higher. Psychological injuries are widely unreported. Workers are discouraged from speaking up, claims are denied, and too many people suffer in silence. On this day of mourning, workers across Canada are fighting for better protections against invisible hazards and hazards that cause invisible injuries. We are calling on all levels of government to treat psychological health with the same seriousness as physical health under occupational health and safety and workers' compensation legislation in every jurisdiction, to ensure that workers are protected across Canada, no matter where they work or what sector they work in, require proactive risk assessments and prevention plans in every workplace, develop and implement national strategies to encourage compliance with C-190, Convention on Workplaces Free from Violence and Harassment, and ensure strong enforcement through sufficient unannounced inspections. Education is another key to prevention, especially for young workers, with 12% of workers injured in 2024 being under the age of 25. Teachers and support workers in schools and programs like the BC Fed of Labor's Alive After 5 are critical to making sure young workers are not only safe at work, but will also not face lifelong impacts from preventable workplace injuries. Since 2001, the BC Fed's Occupational Health and Safety Center, with funding from WorkSafe BC, has been developing and delivering leading-edge occupational health and safety training for young workers and adults, and this now includes mental health first aid. April 28th is a day of remembrance, but it's also a call to action. We owe it to the workers we have lost. We owe it to their families, and we owe it to every worker still on the job today. Safe work must mean safe for both body and mind. I'd like to conclude with the hope that you joined the Labour Council Day of Mourning event that happened today at 11 a.m. in Westminster Park. Everyone here today can help us make a difference. Be safety conscious, support accountability measures, and health and safety education in your workplaces. Workplace accidents and illnesses are preventable and should never be seen as just part of the job or the cost of doing business. Thank you. Respectfully presented by the New Westminster District.
Thank you, Sarah. We'll just take a look at the slides shortly. Before we move on, just another thank you, Sarah. One really is too many. I appreciate you taking time to come and talk to us or provide information. There's health and safety issues, work safety improvement changes that have impacted fatality rates, as well as the impact of psychological injuries. Indeed, that's something that really doesn't receive the attention that it should. And so thank you for bringing awareness. Yes, I was having. Are we? Okay. Sure.
Put it up for the can. So this will be the audio. It is picking up the computer. So
How do you choose the how?
The noise reduction is off. Yeah, it is. It is coming up.
The arrow next to the microphone down there, the left shoulder. Just click the arrow. No, down, there's an arrow just.
You know, it goes
Does it
on.
allow you to choose? Start.
It's on the owl already.
Here it goes. Like that.
Mhm.
Barry, can you hear me any better?
He's not, but this is how before. This is how we did it. I'm not too sure why. I got it up as.
Hello? I was gonna say it could be that the two owls are working against each other, so they're like listening to each other, and that's why it's so echoey and hard to hear.
Turn one off if we want to.
Yeah, should be clear. You want to turn it off now and see if that's.
Sure. I
The
can-
extent of my IT is unplug it, count the 10.
I like that. Let's do that.
I can hear everybody fine.
Okay,
Thanks,
they're getting better.
Testing.
Check.
Gary? A two.
It's much better now.
It's better now?
Yes.
Okay, good job, Avery. Thank you.
Hey,
Owl technician.
Okay, we're doing, we are at agenda item number 6, which is correspondence. There are 3 pieces of correspondence in your package, trustees. A response from the ministry to our letter requesting a specific direction for childcare on school grounds and stable funding for childcare programs. A response from the minister to our letters of advocacy for stable funding for Clean for Bus, with an announcement of a final $400,000 to support the transition from a funded service, and a letter from NWTU outlining concerns with the new proposed attendance management program. Agenda item number 7 is board committee reports. We had a coordinated committee meeting on April 14th. Chair of that meeting.
Sorry, I had my hand up just with regards to the correspondence.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Danielle.
Sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to point out the childcare response letter. It's really disappointing getting that news and knowing, the province has paused the $10 a day program for 3 years. It was also misleading at the end, and to my understanding, and I'm prepared to be informed differently, but blaming the federal budget constraints. The federal government invested $37 billion in child care for the next 5 years, so there was no funding decrease. That takes us through to, that started this year, so that will take us over the next 5 years. So the letter was asking for sustainable funding, timely information, increased strong start funding, and I don't think that it really answered the question or the request. So I just wanted to point that out. Thank you.
Trustee Pond. Moving on to agenda item number 7, which is board committee reports. I was just mentioning the chair of that meeting is Danielle, so I'll pass it over to Trustee Connolly for any comments before we approve the minutes.
I have no comments, sorry.
I'll read the recommendation that the Board of Education of School District number 40 in Westminster approve the minutes as distributed for the April 14th, 2026 coordinating committee meeting. Do I have a mover? Second, and all in favor. Thank you. Agenda item number 8 is reports from senior management, and our first report is a superintendent update. Superintendent Davidson.
Okay, so we yesterday had a pretty amazing PD day. We had about 900 people registered from all of our working groups that were present for that PD day. It was, we had amazing keynote speakers. Focus, of course, was on supporting Indigenous learners, truth and reconciliation, decolonizing education. And I heard so many amazing comments from folks about the quality of sessions, the lunches, which were actually great, and what it felt like to be together and to see one another and to share in that learning together. I received quite a few emails this morning that were really quite positive and supportive, and that was very exciting. I enjoyed that day very much. We've been doing a lot of work, a number of staff and myself, around exploring joint use with the city of Westminster, and that's been going well. Obviously, lots of work on budgets and lots going on with considering capital planning, long-range facility planning. We're gearing up for the spring productions all over the place. I think they even start next week. There's things going on in elementary schools, middle schools, and I plug myself into as many awesome things as they can go to, because it's just the best to go to those things. Little people, big people, it doesn't matter. It's awesome. And that's a pretty exciting time. Grade 4-5 sports day is spooling up. It's getting requests for ribbons and buses and all that kind of stuff today, and that is very exciting. And this will be the inaugural season of the middle school flag football league that's going to happen, where teams are playing flag football at one another's school jamboree style, and that's pretty exciting as well. And then much of what's been going on appears in further business throughout the convention.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any questions or comments from trustees?
I just want to add, I walked through the park on the way here, and Fraser Middle was out there practicing. They were looking pretty good. Pretty good. So look out and see some other schools.
Pretty girl at the braces.
Yeah.
I saw some speed. I was out there earlier today. There's some speed on the playground.
Oh yeah.
Final comment. That's great. We'll move on to agenda item 8B, and I have Superintendent Davidson here for the budget recommendations.
Just start, and Bettina will take over. I think sort of will take it from the side. So the budget that is presented today is clearly and most importantly built on the strategic plan that the board adopted this year. It's about laying the foundation for improved student learning for all of our students, no matter how they come to us. We want to make sure that we meet them where they are and provide them with a great education. We have some challenges heading into this next budget year, in that we have a predicted decline in enrollment that is new for us for a number of years. We've been sort of steadily increasing. Not unusual region. We're the only district, I think, in the metro region that grew this year modestly. That trend is expected to end the year after this next one, and to begin to increase steadily over the course of the next decade. And so it's a blip, but it's a blip that causes some challenges that's reflected in the budget. Our goal has been to hold the line as much as possible, notwithstanding the fact that we have that slightly decreased enrollment and zero increase grants to support instruction, even as the costs of benefits and everything else we do has risen considerably due to inflation. Cost of benefits alone is increased by $750,000 this year, and we all know what it means to fill our tank. And so that is resulting in increased costs across the board. And that too places pressure on the system that helped inform the way we had to bring a budget. The goal, however, has been to protect more services for children and youth, and we believe that that's reflected in the budget very advanced.
Over to me. Included in your package was a number of attachments and
I wanted to make sure that I won't be going through each of those attachments. There's a ministerial document that we would attach for the budget bylaw approval that we'll be considering tonight. There's also a supplementary document that goes alongside that scary looking ministry document that sometimes seems impossible to read because there's just a whole slew of numbers on them. The presentation tonight will focus on a number of priorities, efficiency areas, and considerations we'd like the board to consider for its budget approval for the 26-27 year in the form of this presentation format. So it's a bit more user friendly, but I would encourage everybody, if you're interested, to please look through the other attached documents. So just diving in, Superintendent already touched on the fact that our student enrollment is expecting to be declined for next year. The reason why this is important is because student enrollment is the driver for how the district is funded from the provincial government. So this year, for the 25-26 year, we saw a decrease in our expected enrollment, but we were still growing. We grew by about 0.5%, as opposed to a 2% growth that we were initially anticipating. For next year, we are anticipating a 1.3% decline from existing enrollment, and that isn't unlike every other province or every other district in this province. I think 51 of 60 are expected to decline for next year. Again, that is a blip that we are anticipating and expecting to rebound with a steady enrollment decline for the 27-28, 28-29, and onwards. Despite this decline in regular enrollment, we are anticipating an increase in students with special needs and English language learners across the district as well. We know, given the geopolitical climates, that the recruitment of international students is more challenging than it has been in previous years, so we're anticipating holding the line on student enrollment in those areas, and they represent an important fabric to our community and bring their enriched culture to our students across the district. As indicated, the government shared 51 of 60 districts declining for 2026, September 2026. And given the austerity measures of government, they are not anticipating increasing basic student allocation for next year at all. They too are seeing decreases in unique student needs and ELL learners. It is increasing, but just at a decrease in rates, not as quickly accelerating as we've seen in previous years. Visually, I think it's important to sort of show that the changes we're anticipating seeing in our government grants are strictly based on changes to enrollment. As I indicated in my previous slide, there has been no change with per pupil funding. So areas of cost pressure are going unfunded, despite costs continually increasing by way of fuel prices, benefit costs, just general rates of inflation for supplies and services and materials and so on and so forth. That does place a tremendous pressure on the district's budget. In terms of enrollment, you can see there on the first line, the basic allocation, showing about a $700,000 decrease. That does reflect the decline we're anticipating for student enrollment. I also had mentioned that we are anticipating a growth in unique student needs, whether they be from special education students or English language learning students. So that helps to offset the decrease we're anticipating seeing in general enrollment. For the first time since I've been here as Secretary Treasurer, I've not seen an enrollment decline supplement come to the district, but given the circumstances for next year, we are anticipating about $100,000 coming our way as a result of enrollment decline. This helps to offset any sort of abrupt changes resulting from student declines that we're anticipating. So again, something that unique that we haven't seen in my tenure here, given that we are a rapidly growing district. So on the balance, when you look at the bottom line, we can anticipate about a $218,000 decrease to general revenues being provided by government. Also important to touch on accumulated surplus by year. So these are one-time dollars that fall to the bottom line as a result of our revenue exceeding expense in any given year. We started at a height of $5.6 million in the 2017-2018 year. And this board has continually made very strategic investments to support classrooms and the growth within our district. Currently, we are sitting at the minimum surplus balance level of $2 million as per Board Policy 19.
Accumulated surplus reserves are an important part of managing the district's financial health. It allows us to be agile with change should there be any unexpected circumstances that befall us during the year. The ability to pivot and make some of those adjustments midway through the year is supported by these reserves. And again, we are in a healthy balance as it currently stands. Based on our projected figures for the 25-26 year, we did anticipate initially a neutral or completely balanced budget. We are likely going to be ending the year off with a surplus, in large part due to government's announcement after the amended budget was announced that exempt staff wages were going to be funded after all. So that was not an assumption to us at the time of the passing of this budget. Sorry, 25-26 budget. In terms of base budget, there was a wide collection of data from a number of different departments to help compile base budget. So we've adjusted for a number of different factors, including enrollment and support and teaching staff needed to adjust for that change in enrollment. We heard the superintendent mention pressures as a result of benefits this year of $750,000. We've had to make some adjustments as it relates to the needs of portables and a number of other factors that were reported to us by our various departments. When we looked at our base budget, there was a structural deficit, a very small one, that was present, and we looked for measures to balance that budget, as I will soon explain in subsequent slides. In terms of additional details surrounding our funding sources, you can see from this slide that $92 million of our operating grant, 94% of our operating budget comes from sources from government. The other balances relate to things like rental revenues and international revenue. So a very small portion is discretionary, and large part is driven by these operating grants from government. And most of those funds are already spoken for by way of salaries and benefits for staff. So 92% of our operating expenses relate to salaries and benefits to support classrooms, and 43% of these operating expenses are spent on teachers. There's a very small number of full-time equivalents that the district has discretion for to deal with local priorities. And as we face these ongoing pressures from lack of funding, these discretionary items begin to be squeezed, and the board is forced to make prioritizing decisions as to how we can best support classrooms. So for base budget this year, $113,000 before we considered any new priorities for any efficiencies. We did include some additional supports that the board was made aware of throughout the year. A couple of these are outlined here. We know that there's the completion of the Memorial Park at NWSS about to be opened in the summer or fall of this year. To that end, we had to make provisions to support the grounds work and maintenance within the Memorial Park servicing. As well, there was support for a new neighborhood learning center once the addition at Queen Elizabeth Elementary is completed. And that will require supports to ensure that there is a navigator to assist individuals coming through the NLC space to access those services at that location. I will also mention that within base budget, the Indigenous Education Council has met to approve its targeted fund expenditures. There are $477,000 allocated to this district to support our Indigenous learners. The IEC has purview of how those dollars are spent, and they are supported through the board in sharing its plans. And currently, there has been no full support by this board in terms of those plans, which will be crystallized upon approval of tonight's budget. The proposed efficiencies to help balance the base budget deficit include the following: a 0.9 facilitator reduction, and perhaps after I go through this list, we'll see if I may choose to speak to some of these. And then support staff adjustments, just a recalibration of the staffing that we saw across different school sites. And then department supplies and service reduction. Again, I want to be clear that this does not impact schools themselves. These are department supplies that we look to identify any additional amounts that could be repurposed to a different priority. Do you care to add to?
I think just that you'll see their reduction facilitator, but we don't articulate what position that necessarily is. That's because if we do that as a small organization, people will be finding out about their roles through a board meeting as opposed to a conversation with leadership. And so that's why it's reflected this board. We speak a little bit to support staff adjustments, the noon hour supervision. It's important to note that changes that were made take into account configurations of school grounds. And so you have a lot of portables and corners and those kinds of things that just take into account when considering the allocation of noon supervisors.
So in terms of priorities, we asked some of my colleagues just to help discuss the priorities that we're looking to have the board support for within this budget. In terms of just grounding what those are at a high level, there's a slide here that indicates the priorities that we're looking to support for the 26-27 budget. They include a 1.0 literacy facilitator, professional development across the district of $15,000, as well as a 1.0 privacy officer, which we'll speak to shortly. That includes priorities totaling $282,500 within this year's operating budget. I would also like to take a moment to highlight the additional investments that were made by the board earlier this year, because I think it's important to indicate other supports that it has made over the course of the year to support the learning environments within our schools. Earlier this year, $575,000 one-time local capital approval was made for the 25-26 committee budget. This helps to refresh a number of aged technologies by way of student devices and so on and so forth within classrooms. We heard that as a real priority as part of our budget survey and our partner groups. We also have put aside a little bit of funds related to this area on aged technology to support the actual system live with a possible new enterprise resource planning tool. This is an aged piece of infrastructure, and there is some discussion provincially about the need to refresh this one piece of technology to support all our staff members across the district that utilize this for purposes of dispatch, information gathering, sharing. And so that was important to start saving for to build up some reserve over time to then be able to pull the trigger when we find a suitable replacement. In addition, there was $90,000 to further enhance and support the literacy initiatives that were communicated last year that will continue into the 26-27 year.
Okay, now for the staffing and classroom supports to increase and improve our commitment to literacy outcomes. We are looking at a literacy facilitator position of 1.0 FTE, and that will allow us to continue to provide support to teachers within the evidence-based assessment and instructional practices. We are also committed to implementing targeted grade 9 literacy interventions, and that will help us to address the learning gaps that we do see in secondary and in middle, and help support successful transitions for students. And further to the literacy, all students in K-3 will be universally screened next year, and we will continue with storing that data within EdPlan Insight and using it to inform instruction. For specialized programming, we are committed to renovations to NWSS, assigning a space there. We would have apartment-style learning opportunities for students. The intent of this is to provide targeted small group instruction to those students who would benefit from learning these functional life skills for independent. This space is not intended to be a space where students would spend their entire day, but rather have targeted intervention at periods throughout their week to help them to understand how to communicate, how to take part in safety and independent living in a meaningful way. And we're going to be paying for these renovations out of the annual facilities grant.
Priority identified in and connected to our strategic plan is around student safety and well-being. We're committed to providing high quality learning environments, and that's connected to providing teacher supervision and professional learning supports to ensure that our students are receiving the best quality instruction that they can receive. We're working throughout the district to ensure that we abide by and support the codes of conduct that exist in the district in order to create stable and safe learning environments, work environments for staff. We work with partners and will continue to work with partners to expand our system of care and supports for young people, wrapping our arms around students with services in order to help them reach their potential and get supports that they need. And we've made some hard choices in order to maintain the current level of budgeted counseling supports that we had budgeted heading into this year for next year, hoping to bridge into the increase in slide. It's a non-cost item in terms of the budget, but it is a priority of our district to support all employees in order to perform very well in their work, and that's a balance of supervision and support through professional learning. Evaluation process has begun to roll out and have volunteers participate and others, and that is going well. Understanding that the intent of that process is always limited in nature. The goal is to ensure that staff have the supports they need in order to do great work for their students and to do great work with their clients. And we're working, and this work has begun in elements of our district, and it's expanding throughout in order to do work to track attendance and timely arrival to work in order to support people to be present for kids and provide them the supports they need when they need it. The intent of that is to make sure that we are aware in a purposeful way of when people are at work and in absence in order to offer support for them to be there. The goal is not to compel people to be at work. The goal is to notice when folks are away in order to offer support so that they can be present for the children.
Okay, over to me on infrastructure and capacity. Currently, the board has supported a refresh of our long-range facility plan and consultation with our partners in the community. So that work is well underway, and we'll see more to come in subsequent meetings until the end of the school year, which will then inform the 26-27 capital plan submission due in June. Earlier this year, we had some positive news by way of a new simple elementary announcement, which is slated to start in the later half of the 2026 year. In the subsequent memo, you'll see some successful requests that we have had on our school enhancement program funding by way of some switch tooling, which has been a priority for that school and the board, as well as an HVAC project at Herbert Spencer Elementary School. There's some other updates as well that we would like to share surrounding the development of Lord Tweaks here, so that too is we'll be sharing shortly, subsequent to the budget approval consideration. And finally, we've heard loud and clear from the community that it has appreciated our innovative way of trying to address capacity without the continual use of portables, which can place a tremendous amount of pressure on our budgets. These strategies have included a 5-block model revision at NWSS this year with continued refinements for next. The relocation of the early French immersion program from Kite to Spencer to take advantage of some declining enrollment at Spencer to make way for the growth that we are anticipating at Kite. And similarly, a voluntary placement at some school sites to relieve some of the pressure that we're experiencing in those schools currently as we await further announcements. In terms of technology, you heard a brief update by me surrounding a 25-26 investment made by the board earlier this year on infusion of technology. for classrooms. In addition to these, we have also made some enhancements to our cybersecurity networks, including multi-factor authentication rollouts and deployed security information event management solutions and offsite backup solutions to further secure our data and privacy of student and staff information as we work with the sector. We also have an active tech committee that meets regularly and consists of principals and vice-principals, teachers, district staff to discuss hot topics and trends, including AI, BYOD, so bring your own device, and other resource requirements.
So the province recently announced that they would provide $400,000 in one-time funding to support Queensborough transportation while we bridge towards hopefully an alternative. And so it can be used all at once or it can be used over the course of a number of years. We've started the process of trying to working with Coast Mountain TransLink City in order to try and come up with solutions for when these dollars run out. And I know that there's a motion further down the agenda for further discussion.
So risk register and budget. I wanted to highlight a new process that was implemented by our leadership group this year that I think is quite, I find it interesting. What is a risk register? A risk register is an organizational document that compiles various risks across different departments. So we met departmentally to identify what areas of risk can we identify that are impactful to the organization overall. As a group, we then came together to discuss how do those pieces of risks or those risks that we identified by department intersect and become larger risks for us to try to tackle together. By way of doing that, we identified what we call risk clusters. And these risk clusters, again, have a lot of intersectionality between our work and will then be utilized to resource various requests or work that we need to do to mitigate risk across the district. So as an example, student safety and emergency preparedness. If there happened to be a major safety event, such as an earthquake or some natural disaster such as that, it's been identified that this is an area of priority that many of our departments need to address. For example, facilities might want to contemplate an alternate place for learning. So working with a community partner, such as the city, to identify a place for a secondary site. Should our primary facility go down? That also calls into question for the learning team, how do we stand up perhaps remote learning during that bridge? It calls into question work with my department on the business side on dealing with insurance matters with the province. So as you can see that there's a lot of tentacles associated with one type of risk that impacts multiple districts overall. And it starts to elevate that risk into an area where we would like to have that elevated, identified, prioritized, and resourced in that way. Similarly, staffing succession, there wasn't one department that came forward and didn't highlight succession planning as being a real area of risk. So again, these are conversations that are being had at the leadership table on how do we manage and mitigate that, looking at the how we might plan for a departure, either expected or unexpected, of a particular key member of our team. Technology and cybersecurity. We live in a world where cybersecurity events are unfortunately a very prevalent event that you're carrying the news constantly. These things jeopardize privacy and security of information, whether it's staff or students. And it's an area of vulnerability that we certainly want to address and has a number of, again, implications for our departments on how we want to manage and deal with that. Technology also from an aged infrastructure perspective. The use of technology within our classrooms is far more pervasive than it's ever been as a learning tool and to ensure that our students are educated in digital literacy, the use of AI, the responsibility of being citizens within those kinds of environments. Those are all the aspects that I'm referring to when we talk about these clusters. They have far-reaching impacts, again, to how we operate as a school district and how we respond to them. Privacy and data protection, you've heard me refer to a privacy officer. earlier this year as being an area of investment we are hoping the board will consider. This is an area that is somewhat tied to number 3, technology and cybersecurity, making sure that we are protecting student data and staff data. We know we work in a vulnerable sector dealing with students, so it's critical that we protect that information to the best of our ability. Having privacy and a data manager helps to ensure that we are implementing the best practices, reduces any sort of litigation and liability for the board, because the legislative requirements are starting to increase as they should be, given the environments we currently live in. And finally, from capital capacity and infrastructure, this board and our committee knows all too well that the creation of appropriate and safe learning environments is a real focus area to ensure that we create the best learning environments that we can. So it's, again, an area of risk that we want to address to ensure that we're putting that at the forefront in terms of board decisions, board advocacy, board resources. So I just want to highlight the work that had been done earlier this year, and it's not a document that will be completed and shelved. It's one that we're going to be constantly referring back to on an annual basis, trying to prioritize different priorities and then asking the board for its support resources to ensure that those risks are perfectly reduced over the course of time. And of course, as time changes, those risks change. The sequencing of those risks might change over time in terms of consideration of potential magnitude and the likelihood of those risks. Outcomes of that process are listed on this particular slide. So to that end, we'll talk about emergency preparedness. The board did invest $20,000 during the 25-26 year to hire Hour Zero to assess the district's emergency preparedness to make plans and recommendations. Surely this consultant will come forward to bring recommendations that might have to be resourced to, again, furnish and provide resources to schools or additional reports that we will have to consider and perhaps hire consultants for to shore up any systems and processes they identify as an area for our consideration. In terms of staff and succession planning, always an area that we work on front and center focus of our HR department. Recently we hired our IT director, and again, we're making great headway on attendance management programs as well. Privacy and data protection, within our priorities is a net ask for some supports to ensure that we have the appropriate resources and personnel to deal with that very important risk area within our organization. You've heard me talk about some cybersecurity enhancements that we've made during this year, the multi-factor authentication, the offsite backup, stemming from a report that we had from a consultant in our cyber event 2 years ago that the district has made good on. And finally, the capacity infrastructure, just working on the completion of our long-range facility plan, including our consultation works surrounding that are going to be taking place over the course of the next month or so. So again, just wanting to highlight how the risk register translates into requests to the board, and then how these things are then actioned.
Just want to say that it's not very often that things that make an accountant excited also excite me, but this was actually really enjoyable. I enjoyed it too. It was kind of fun to work through. I'm not saying you're boring or I get it.
Well, I appreciate that. Okay, in terms of planning for the future, I mean, some bumps ahead of us should we continue to not see additional government investment roll to various boards of education. For the last 2 years, we have seen a tremendous amount of budget pressure resulting from unfunded wage benefits to the tune of $1.5 million cumulatively between 2 years. The cost of inflation, geopolitical climates are not helping the situation by increasing costs that it takes to operate and purchase supplies and services. For the current year, you can see that the board is accepting $168,000 deficit, which will balance through its accumulated surplus reserves. In future years, the situation it doesn't look great, but we're committed to working together to find ways to cut as far away from the classroom as we can to support our learners. We will have some work to do, but we do hope the government comes to the table to support additional, for people, funding increases to support these continued erosions of purchasing power. You can see over time as we make our way through various capital projects and have successes in those areas that there will have to be structures that are budgeted for that are reflected in some of those deficits you're seeing in future years. So again, it's not meant to scare, but to necessarily just be aware that we've got some work to do with future years to balance the budget, and we're going to do so thoughtfully and together. So with that, there are some considerations for the board to make. As I said, there's a number of supplementary documents that I won't be going through, but I'm sure you've had a chance to review. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. This evening, we are looking for the completion of all 3 readings of the budget bylaw. Should you choose to not complete all 3 readings, we would reconvene a meeting within 48 hours for the 3rd final reading.
Questions, comments? Trustees? Trustee Andres?
Got a list.
Okay.
I don't know if I should go through all of these at once, or maybe other trustees could discuss some of these as we move through. I just wanted to highlight, it's good news that we're finishing the memorial grounds. I think that's fantastic, but it will be a cost for the district moving forward, right? We're adding, 6 acres of space that will need to be maintained each year. And I already asked if we could charge for paid parking. That is illegal, as I found out. So this is going to be a significant cost for us moving forward. I just wanted to highlight that for folks. I'm still a little unclear about the role of the privacy officer. Like, it seems like it's more on the digital side. Is that correct? Or can you just explain it just a little bit differently for me?
Sure. It would be a role that would be working with a number of departments, including our technology department. There are a number of requirements now for privacy impact assessments for every time we decide to use an application. So it would have to be thoughtfully assessing each application, assessing how one's privacy could be utilized, what information is being asked for. So that's one aspect of the work. The other is with respect to our data management practices, ensuring that we are kind of continuously sanitizing our data, record keeping in a way that's consistent, which has some benefits when you think about succession planning. When you lose a key staff member, that the way that we keep our data is also consistently stored for purposes of being able to recall information so that you're not leaving these large gaps. Legislatively, we also have requirements on protection of student information or staff information, and this person would ensure that our practices are consistent with government legislation and best practices around not only just districts but public sector as well. And so we see this role as being fairly critical in supporting a number of different departments, just given the burdens of requirements that are coming out today.
There's one more piece that's not as significant in terms of the time that it takes. Currently, when we have a freedom of information request, a member of our staff goes through gathering all of that information, and then we use outside legal counsel in order to help us determine whether or not we've gathered it correctly and to support us with redactions to make sure we only redact what's appropriate under the legislation. Having someone trained to do that work would allow us to have that work done and then double check, which is a lot faster and less costly than it is to have a full-on review done by an external person. It's not something they do every day, but there are times when the volume of records they're going through is quite significant.
Thank you. I just have a couple more, if I may. I just wanted to highlight department learning. This is something we've heard from our UP partners for a number of years as a priority, and I'm really happy that we're able to do this. I know it's going to make a big difference for a lot of our students that maybe for some people it's not front of mind, but it's really important that we are able to allow all students to access education in the way that's most appropriate for them. And this is a really exciting move to do that. I am also excited about our investment in computers and technology. I think that this is something that we've talked about a lot at this table, how that burden falls on students if we aren't going to put that forward. And so this is an equity piece that we're dealing with as a district, and it's an important piece, even if it's in a challenging environment. I am going to just refer to the correspondence we received from the NWTU on the attendance support program. And I am curious about this program because one of the things that stood out for me in the letter is, you know, how is this helping teachers with their wellness? And I know teacher wellness is not only physical but emotional, and teachers sometimes take time, because I'm saying this as a teacher myself. Maybe you're not at your best emotionally on that day, and so you know your kids need that, so you stay home and you're not able to go to work, and so I agree, teachers absolutely need support in those cases with wellness. So how does this program, which is coming at a cost to us, how does it support teachers being better?
Well, first, there's actually no additional cost to us. It's something that we've already been doing with a number of employee groups, and using data to track absence and then have conversations with folks from the perspective of, is there something that you need from us in order to help be present at school? So, or at your place of work. It's not the kind of conversation that happens the first time someone says it. It's when it becomes a trend that's noticed. There is a duty to inquire that exists within our role as an employer to ask if someone is okay, and if they need something from us. So managing or supporting people's attendance at work is not about trying to get them to be here when you shouldn't be here, or be here when you're not okay at all. It's about noticing and then asking, are you okay? And is there anything that we can do to support you? I think I've worked with this kind of structure in prior roles, and here's what we noticed. There was a decrease over time in the cost to district on extended benefits. And we were able to help people return to work quicker, but not in a way that forced them into a space that they weren't prepared to work. Any system that you build that isn't built around first compassion and being thoughtful is problematic. I think the way that we've engaged in the work is first thoughtful and is caring. It's important also to note that the cost of absence is not a financial cost first. First, it's about the service to the young people that are in our classrooms. And so, again, we can't express care for children without expressing care for the people who support them. Right? Make sure that the lens that we use when we are thinking about attendance support is about looking at someone and offering them our care if they need it. Then it allows us to see that as being focused on human beings and kids that those humans serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Hargraves. We'll go to Trustee Russell.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions, I guess. Just first, on the revenue side and the big picture, could you just walk us through some of the assumptions behind the budget? I think just for people to understand how we get what we get. What are the main areas where you have to use, you and the team have to use judgment to estimate those areas that are variable?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I think it's a good one. I think it's important to realize the entire budget is an estimate. And as I started with the outset of my slide, it first starts with predictions predictions in enrollment, right? That's not to say that we don't use data to inform those predictions. We used what we had available to us at the time of submission in February, which included registrations that were open for November and closed at the end of January. Now we know that there are families that either trickle in after or at the end of the school year might leave. So it's a bit of a guessing game subsequent to the close of registration, what exactly is going to happen between that point of submission and the start of the school year. We have found that our best prediction of information is sort of the data that we have available at the time of close, and then the ins and the outs hopefully sort of level themselves out. And what we saw at the time of close registration is a decrease in enrollment. So that's one of the assumptions that is generally made. The other assumptions generally made include the number of level 1, 2, and 3 special needs students, or the number of ELL learners. We see a pattern over time. We utilize information as of the February 1701, which is the data capture again, that our administrators participate in. And again, that is another data point that helps to inform what kind of growth did we see between September and February, and what kind of projected growth are we going to see from that point to September. Again, that requires the expertise of these people in the building that are aware of the trends that we're observing to help to inform those kinds of assumptions. Similarly, there are assumptions in respects of smaller categories, but still assumptions, on graduated adults and the type of environment we're going to see from a continuing education perspective to support adult learners. And we've seen a tremendous level of growth. But again, the geopolitical environment we live in, does that mean that we're going to see a slow level of growth? So some of the assumptions there are that the level of growth that we see, and we can hold staff, see continued growth, right? So those are the elements and complexities as a bit of a glimpse into how we gather data as data points, but also our best estimates and are still sort of our best guesses, but informed by data. On the expense side of things, you know, it is enrollment that again drives the amount of staffing we put in place. So that affects, you know, our expectations of teacher staff and support staff. It all sort of trickles down from that 1 week assumption of student enrollment, because that's again how fun. There are collected knowns over time. We have meetings with our benefit provider to say, well, what was the utilization rate? What are the costs that we're anticipating paying for next year, which are based on actuarial reports, and so on and so forth. So as much as there is an art and a science working together, we try to use as many data points as possible with current information and make assumptions of whether that will hold true to either grow or decline.
Amazing, thank you. And note, I think it's worth noting the increasing level of accuracy the team is landing on every year, that this is just getting more sense. I always enjoy the answer to that question because it helps me to understand what we're doing here. I'm pleased you mentioned adult education because and maybe I can park this for another question down the road, but are there any changes to the economics of that program and our ability to offer it?
Right now, I understand that the interest and our ability to intake enrollment is robust. Again, you know, that's sort of a bit, I think, cyclical and sort of depending on the times, because there's different entry points all throughout and continuously throughout the year. So right now, I'm not hearing any reports of any sort of tremendous decreases. It just is sort of steady.
And then I'm sorry, I may have missed it, but could you just explain where are we at with portables, cost of portables, and how certain we are for those?
Sure. We have a good deal of clarity for the 26-27 year, based on our assumptions that I shared with you how we gathered. A large relief was created through opening up classroom therapy, right? So we've referred some of our fastest growing schools. We are seeing fairly level growth everywhere else in the district, so not anticipating any significant portable placements across the district. There's one needed to accommodate Herbert Spencer, just for that movement, early graduate students. And any movement and portable placement that you see at Fraser River Middle School will be funded by our capital project for Simcoe Elementary, because the annex that is being relocated to make space for Simcoe Elementary is being funded to be moved and replaced. So just one for this year. In terms of future, you know, we have made assumptions for assuming 2 portable growths in each year. Only because even though we might not be increasing by that much, the where the kids are sometimes differs, and so you have to make space for those kinds of assumptions.
Trustee Connolly on that?
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me okay? Switch to. You can?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I was just wondering, had a few things I'm going to throw out there. So, and just one for clarification, the newcomer refugee funding, is that covered under ELL, or I didn't see a budget amount allocated to that? Just that was a line item of newcomer refugee funding.
Yeah, it's a separate funding outside of ELL.
Okay.
And we get an amount generally during a February capture of any refugees that are reported to us. And then there is a supplement of ELL funding that goes alongside of the refugee funding. So it's sort of like a two-parter.
Okay, great. And then on page 88, is the HVAC at school, which is that the cooling system?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to be clear about that. And I'm kind of jumping on where Trustee Andres was referencing with regards to the additional groundskeeper. Is that meant to be, it's not just dedicated for that site? I think that we need to be, I mean, if it's dedicated strictly for that site, I can't support that recommendation. I think we've all agreed, or some of us have, that there's not a huge appetite to take money out of the classrooms to support that. So would that be a position that would be perhaps helping, you know, custodial in nature as well?
Not necessarily custodial, but we'll be supporting the grounds crew. We've got a very lean crew, and so the addition of this individual would help support the operations of grounds across the district. It wouldn't be custodial, but those are very different roles. Jane is shaking her head yes, she agrees. Okay, good.
Okay. And sorry, is it okay? One last question?
For sure.
Okay. Just the literacy coordinator position, does that funding come from or can we utilize the provincial, that one-time funding?
Can take that. So we received a grant for literacy that we used in part this year to support 2.6 FTE. That grant is not continuing next year. And so this position is a 1.0 that sees the continuation of that work with a 1.0 position, but now it's not funded by an additional grant, it's funded through our instruction units.
Okay. And that goes for the same for the 90,000 in literacy resources.
That's right. That's us making a commitment to supporting literacy resources across the district out of instructional grants.
Okay. And I'm just gonna kind of backtrack on when will we be receiving, I don't know if we had a timeline on when we would receive a report with regards to the cost of our literacy programs to fulfill the mandate from the province.
It was a motion that was put forward earlier this.
Yes, but I just was curious what was landed on for a timeline on receiving those reports.
I have to get back to you. We'll meet as a team next week and we'll bring you the date. We'll bring you the reports. Great.
And I just wanted to also piggyback on what others have said, and the learning apartment is just, that's great to see in the budget. I'm very supportive of that. So thank you very much for building that in.
Thank you, Trustee Connolly. Any last questions? Trustee Carlson, go ahead.
A couple of you touched on this already, but my question about the privacy officer was, could this be a half-time position? Is it really, if I have a full-time position?
We've assessed, I think that. Yeah, go. We've assessed as, various departments come together, we think that there is sufficient work for a full-time position. I also think that, it would be more attractive to probably recruit as one, as opposed to a part-time, position as well. But I do think that there is quite a lot of heavy lifting, especially if you're set to support a full-time person do this work.
I guess that goes into my same question was with the groundskeeper, or will that be works in other areas? So the answer to that, so thank you. I am happy to see the counseling not being decreased as it has been in other districts. And I want to thank you for listening to our advocacy for not letting that go anymore. And I'm also really happy to see technology being supported. I hear quite often students at the high school of the challenges they face. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Sim.
Yeah, just wanted to piggyback off of Trustee Andres regarding the attendance management program. Like, I really appreciate what you said about like coming from a place of care, and this just from my own knowledge. Like, I guess my concern is around like privacy and disclosure, and how that works for teacher, somebody that is noticed in this attendance management program. Like, is their union rep present with them? Like, I guess my concern is, as somebody who does experience mental health stuff, like there's a concern about, even if it's not named like a stigmatization or bias that could follow that individual in their career, like possibly promotion, ascension, things like that. So I was just curious if you could kind of speak a little bit more about that, just in terms of the care that is surrounding that.
I could start. I think Jane, you probably could dive in as well. It really, the conversation from the perspective of the employer is never about asking them to tell us why. It's about saying, we've noticed, can we help? Is there something that you need? Those conversations early are scripted in order to support ensuring that the person who's having it has it in a way that aligns with our values. And you don't, sometimes particularly in an environment where you get really close with people with whom you work, you could step across that line and ask questions that you would ask a good friend because you see them every day, and that's not a thing that can happen. So Jane, if you could flesh that out.
Yeah, I think just to follow up on its comments, if we're looking at a program, so that we're following these incremental steps, those early, simple conversations, trying to see, maybe there's something just very acute that's happened. Someone says, there was a change. Do we keep following through and just incrementally scripted conversations so that we never information that should be disclosed to the employer, just what supports do we have, always offering them as we go. It is a supportive program too, because our employee health is very important to us because it's important to kids. Great discussion, trustees. We have a series of recommendations in front of us, and the first one will sort of guide the path that we take tonight. So I'll just read the recommendation. The Board of Education of School District Number 40, Westminster, complete all 3 readings of the 2026-27 budget bylaw. Do I have a mover and a seconder? All in favor? Thank you, that passes. So we will do a motion for the first and second, and then follow that by a third reading. So recommendation that the Board of Education of School District Number 40, Westminster, approve first and second reading of the 2026-27 budget bylaw. Have a mover? Seconder, and all in favor? Thank you, trustees. And finally, that the Board of Education of School District Number 40, Westminster, approve the third and final reading, reconsideration, and final adoption of the 2026-27 budget bylaw. Mover? Second, thank you, and all in favor. Thank you very much. Our 2026-27 budget is.
All right.
That brings us to, agenda item number 8C, which is the capital plan response bylaw 2026-27. So at our in-camera meeting tonight, we amended our capital plan. There's a little bit of a timing issue with the package being released Friday and information coming around the Tweedsmuir expansion announcement that was embargoed until yesterday afternoon. We were prohibited from identifying any information in the open package. And so I'm going to pass it over to Secretary Treasurer Kitchen to sort of fill us in on the capital plan response fund.
Happy to. So as the chair indicated, there was a bylaw considered and approved. All three readings done. Sorry, wasn't approved for readings. The resolution was passed to amend the 26-27 capital plan for last year. Last year, we approved a capital plan that did not include the Lord Tweedsmuir redevelopment. And there have been rapid conversations within the last little while here that government has now indicated its support for a Lord Tweedsmuir redevelopment. Because of that direction issued by government, they had required the board to amend its capital plan to include the Lord Tweedsmuir campus redevelopment. I do have a background for that, but I wanted to help to explain why that was done in Canada, what exactly was passed, and what it means. So with the passing of the amended capital plan, the Lord Tweedsmuir program has now been identified to government as a project supported by this Board of Education for further exploration. And so it signals to government that we accept that we'd like to be moved on to the business case development of this particular site. And that's all that that direction happens to serve. So it's not a direction of anything specific, only that we support the exploration of doing this project, and that government is supportive of the intensification of the site. So that was servicing the purpose of what was passed in the encounter meeting. There was a motion to bring it forward to open. That's this conversation happening right now to indicate that that approval happened in camera. Now we've expressed it in open meeting for transparent communication to the community. Now I'm going to start back to the beginning of this prepared backgrounder, and then there is one I'd like to share further with more information surrounding the Tweedsmuir redevelopment, and I will call on superintendent to sort of tag team that particular communication. So as I indicated, capital planning is a bit challenging because you're always working a year ahead. So in June 2025, the board approved a plan for the 26-27 year. In March of this year, so a couple of weeks ago, we received a letter from government indicating what projects it's chosen to support as part of our capital plan. Within that letter, we were approved for 2 minor capital projects. So the Switch cooling project for $1.25 million and Herbert Spencer HVAC upgrade for $650,000. So that was reflected in the letter. You'll see here in this memo, there's a reference to the cancellation of the Fraser River Zone site acquisition for a new middle school. That was outlined to us again a couple of weeks ago, indicating they would not support the purchase of any new land for a much-needed middle school that we require and was part of our capital plan submission. Concurrently within the letter, it had also provided support for a Lord Tweedsmuir redevelopment. And I would like to share a backgrounder report that again wasn't part of the package for the reasons stated by the chair of embargoed information that we're happy to share with you this evening. So again, firstly, we were not permitted to move forward with the purchase of a land acquisition. That necessitated a change to how we address the capacity pressures within the district. At the same time, we have been moved on to a business case for campus redevelopment at Lord Tweedsmuir. Again, it's not the same as funding approval. It's just to move on to business case development to see what government will support in terms of an approved project at this time. So there is no commitment for a specific size or a specific configuration. So it's not necessarily elementary or middle. It could be some other variant configuration that will have to be fleshed out during the business case review process with government and through support of the board through its long range facilities plan work. So those two things are sort of happening concurrently. We are anticipating, however, that we, if we are going to site intensify, that we seize the opportunity to create a campus for anywhere up to 2,000 to 2,300 students on the site of Lord Kingsmere. This site has a lot of opportunities insofar as our largest site in the district and allows for this kind of densification, unlike other sites within our district, which are a much smaller footprint. What should be a highlight to this district is that government has indicated its austerity measures and noted that there are very few business cases that it has endorsed or supported this year. We are one of two that has gone forward. So I think that's a testament to the advocacy work done by the board and its partner groups. There was a trip last year to Victoria to advocate for additional capacity. Clearly that was impactful. At the staff level, we've been pounding that same drum to indicate the need for additional capacity in the district. So the other piece to highlight here is that we obviously need some swing space if we're going to create a
to FaceTime to work on as long as it's homework.
Please use their microphones. Thank you. In order to accommodate the build of such a large campus, we do need to create some swing space to for the existing Lord Kingsmere students. So to that end, students and staff will be accommodated at a vacant and operational school within Burnaby Schools. That particular site is Stride Avenue Community School. It's in the New Westminster and Burnaby districts. So students will remain at Lord Kingsmere for the entirety of the 26-27 year. And again, the proposal to utilize Burnaby was put forward by the ministry to allow for faster development of the larger school campus. So it's as part of our long range facility plan, we are still going through this refresh process. The direction from government to proceed to business case will be considered as part of our long range facility planning. And at this point, we're contemplating this campus as part of our submission process to the ministry for the 27-28 submission in June. Again, what it will look like at the size are yet to be determined, but those are processes that are still being reviewed. And I should also make mention of the fact that if the board's recommendations to put forward to government are then not supported, so for example, we put forward a certain configuration and government comes back with a different approval, it will necessitate us to revisit the long range facility plan recommendations again. And yeah, I think we need to acknowledge that this has a pretty profound impact on the Lord Kingsmere community. We understand that we're going to have to do discussion, consultation with how we better support and best support our students and staff as we make this transition. And we should acknowledge that there's going to be a lot more questions than there are answers currently, but we are well underway doing some good work to, again, streamline and support the entire community as we navigate this next stages of work. And perhaps the superintendent might like to make some additional comments at this time.
We were, I think, understandably frustrated after many attempts to secure support for land acquisition for a middle school. And last year started to have some pretty serious conversations with government about if land acquisition isn't an option, then what is? We need to start considering approaching capital planning and construction for schools in a different way. In one of the fastest growing and most densely populated cities in Canada, you have to start exploring different ways to do this. As far as I know, it looks like this is perhaps the first time they're looking at building a couple of schools that would address future student seat needs. So address where we're headed in terms of which would be unique and a significant shift in practice. I appreciate very much that when we came back and said, if not this, what, we have some ideas, that they were receptive to having that kind of a conversation. We'll also, as Secretary Treasurer Ketchum said, acknowledge that it's a significant impact on a school community in order to make that kind of move, temporary or not, in order to accommodate that kind of structure. The reason that government wants to proceed that way is because the overall cost of building two schools on the same site at the same time is lower than building in stages, that they're able to realize savings by getting after it all at once. It would represent a significant project on the scale of a hospital in terms of the way the Ministry of Infrastructure thinks. It's really important for folks to know that you're going to be involved in lots of conversation and lots of work with staff and students, families at Tweeds. I've had conversations with the grade admin team at Tweeds today about meeting with staff and meeting with PAC as soon as possible to talk about where we're at, what we know about where we're going, to answer as many questions as we have, take as many questions away and find the answers as fast as we can. And it's important to also know this business case is in fact that we don't know what the response of government will be to that business case. And so the LRFP process, the long range facility plan process is meaningful. The recommendation that the board makes matters, as does the business case, and then of course government response. And we'll need to work with them in order to take care of our students. I'll reiterate again, the amount of work that this board has done since before I came in, 2 years that I've been here almost, in order to advocate with government and to encourage them to think differently about helping us meet the needs of students in our community has been Herculean. You think about the amount of effort that DMAC and our partners at NWT and QB have done, as well as the families writing letters and communicating with trustees. It's been a community effort to try and get to a place where there's consideration of doing something different. If approved, this would see moving hundreds and hundreds of students out of portables to proper classrooms. And it will be hard work, and it will create challenges for us that we need to work in thoughtful area through. And so that's where we are.
Maybe I'll just add, I think you really said some important things there, Superintendent. And I guess I'll just say that I think this has been a very swift development, and I'm going to ask for patience as we work through some of the communication and some of the planning that needs to be done, because as you said, it is very significant and there are significant impacts. At the end of the day, this is going to be a really, really positive thing for our district. And yeah, I too want to just thank all of our partners who have done the hard work to try to make sure that people knew that what the experience was like in Westminster. So grateful that the ministry has heard that. At this point, we'll open it up to questions and comments from trustees about the capital response fund. Trustee Russell.
Thank you. I just wanted to take the opportunity to reflect on what incredible news this is. And despite the superintendent's very kind comments and very appropriately sharing of credit, I think we have to give some credit to this district leadership team, our chair and vice chair, who is online, for really, really remarkable advocacy to get this over the line. What we have heard time and time again from our community is, why can't you guys plan ahead for growth? Why can't we be 5 years ahead? And we have been explaining ever since I joined this board how incredibly difficult that is and how school capital planning really wasn't set up for that. That is happening, and it is actually incredible. I think this district is really leading province in terms of what's happening in an urban school district. We have a massive expansion, almost complete in Queensborough for elementary students. We have a brand new elementary that's going to be going up beside us, and after very hard work to find our next middle school, elementary school, and a solution for our high school, this is a pretty incredible win to have this supportive principal at this stage. It makes sense given the density of our city, the challenges in getting a new site to be making best use of our current site, and good use of public tax dollars, and yeah, just the opportunity to get prevention support for this number of spaces is really kind of a generational move forward. So I am really delighted.
Thank you, Trustee Thompson. Any other comments, questions? Trustee Conley, I've lost you on the screen. There we go. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I think Trustee Russell neglected to include herself in that advocacy as board chair for a number of years as well. So appreciate all the efforts on behalf of the entire group. And I just wanted to echo something that the superintendent and board chair has mentioned with regards to land selection. I've already seen, with the initial notice that's gone out and people asking, why didn't they find land, there's sites, and I just, want to take this opportunity. I know we're going to have to be, diligent in communicating this out to people that, we have, the district has spent copious amounts of time and money to the tune of, hundreds of thousands of dollars that are now owed to us as we begin these other projects in looking for suitable sites. And this really is, densifying is the direction that the ministry is going. And I just, thank our staff for being able to pivot and face this head on and make this work. And I know it will work in the long run, but I just, perhaps just for clarity, I know there's more communications that will be going out, but one piece that I have seen a number of people referencing is the childcare piece. And so I'm just wondering if perhaps the superintendent could just speak to that piece.
A long-term partnership and commitment to providing childcare in collaboration with WCAS and Purpose. And we will continue that work. That will happen, and it will continue through the process of construction. Now, the location of the work that we do with Purpose may very well have to change because that site will turn into a construction site, but that will continue right through the process of constructing the new schools, and as will our partnerships with WCAS.
Trustee Anders.
Yeah, I'm not going to echo what everyone said because it is a tremendous accomplishment, but I do just feel strongly my responsibility as Lord Tweedsmuir representative and just saying, this was rapid development, rapid news, and I just want us to continue to have that really strong communication that we've had. And, it's a commitment from myself, it's a commitment from the superintendent and the rest of the senior team, right, to support you all with this really challenging transition. Like it is going to be challenges. We want to hear what those challenges are and we want to find solutions with you to those challenges. So yeah, I know there's excitement and then there's these other feelings right now. So yeah, just we're here for you. And I know I'll be meeting with the exec of the PAC tomorrow as well. And yeah, just questions that you're thinking of and concerns that you have, just putting those together right now and getting them down so that we can hear from you is really important. Thank you.
Yeah, super good.
To that, I'm actually so excited that we're here now, and that broader communication is going tomorrow, because now we're able to really start having conversations because we all know what we know, and that's exciting. I'll share with you just really two quick things, and it speaks to parts of this work that you maybe don't think about going in, that you really have to think about while you're in. A considerable concern among the great people who work at Tweeds is the garden. Because the garden isn't just a plot of ground. It's a place where kids and staff learn together and engage in really important work together. And it's a piece of legacy that matters. We'll find a way to take care of the garden. There's also staff who are like, I've taught here for this many years and I wanted to retire here. And that means something. It does. And it's really important for folks to know that we want to make this go as well as we can.
I think they might build a middle school there.
So we really want to do our best to make sure that we address the things that people really need to know, like what are we going to do with that childcare and so on, and we will take care of those things. We will. And the things that we can't change, we need to make sure that we're thoughtful and caring and supportive of folks as they work through those transitions, because even something exciting can be hard, and I'm all in to help with that tonight. I'm looking forward to watching those things come into operations.
Thank you. So that brings us to another series of recommendations. And so I will begin with the first one, of the Board of Education of School District 40 to Westminster. Complete all 3 readings of capital bylaw number 2026-27 CPSD 40-011. Do I have a mover? Thank you. And a seconder. All in favor?
With the PAC executive tomorrow to talk.
Sorry.
Okay, second one is that the Board of Education of School District number 40 to Westminster approve first and second reading of capital bylaw number 2026-27 CPSD 40-01. Mover and seconder and all in favor. Thank you. And the final recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 40 in Westminster approve third reading, consideration, and final adoption of capital bylaw number 2026-27 CPSD 40-01. Mover, second, and all in favor. Very much. Okay. For item 8D, we're going to go back over to Secretary Treasurer Ketchum, who will share the results from our long range facilities plan survey.
Just to note, it should say 7:10 p.m.
on our.
Oh,
yeah, I know. Well, it's big stuff.
Okay, so just continuing down the vein of long range facility planning that's been referenced a couple of times earlier in February. We put out a survey to community on our long range planning consultation and considerations we should make as we planning for future schools. Pleased to report that there was a great deal of interest in this survey. We had over 1,000 respondents, and it seems as though a lot of people put some significant amount of thought and effort into the survey. The average response time was 32 minutes. Wow. Yeah. Attached to the backgrounder are the survey results in sort of graphical format. I'll go through some of those, but I also wanted to take the opportunity to highlight a number of open-ended questions and thoughts that were gathered. for folks that chose to share their feedback in other ways. So there are themes that emerged as part of this survey, and I'll just capture some of these briefly. So one of the themes that emerged is that respondents highlighted the overcrowding that they are seeing or experiencing at NWSS and calling for another high school. There's also some families that emphasize the need for Queensboro bus program due to the commute across the bridge traffic and geographical uniqueness of that area to our community. There were calls for climate resiliency within our schools to ensure that we had air conditioning. And this was especially a concern for portables during warmer months. There was a call for more proactive growth planning to consider population projections 50 plus years, so being proactive rather than reactive. There was a deep desire by community to preserve as much as we can outdoor and green spaces, asking for no more loss of play space or replacement of these spaces if they are removed or taken up. A desire by many participants to add more before and after school care, noticing the stresses on the amount of space available within our community. Several comments calling for sensory-friendly designs, things like quiet rooms, better acoustics for students with unique needs. A strong support for vertical construction and indicating smaller urban footprints given our space scarcity of sites. There was also several calls for better entrance monitoring, safer and more private washroom facilities. And finally, from a city collaboration perspective, ensuring that city developers contribute more towards the infrastructure as density increases. So now just going through some of the survey responses. Most responses, 77%, were for parents and caregivers of students. The majority of respondents were elementary school aged learners. We also noticed a fairly equal representation according to our population on respondents between Glenbrook, Fraser, and Queensboro. Very few respondents, so 23% of respondents said not applicable, likely due to them being staff members, because this was about residency. There were responses surrounding looking 10 to 20 years ahead, what kind of vision folks wanted to see or would best reflect facilities in future. The most strongly supported response was for a strong K-12 continuum of innovative programs supported by specialized facilities, followed closely by whole child campuses that integrate academics, arts, athletics, and student wellness in thoughtfully designed interior and outdoor spaces. We also were curious about what folks value most in site selections, if that was a consideration government will make in future. The top 3 responses were the availability or access to outdoor space, safe walk and cycling access, and vehicle flow and safe pickup and drop off. We also asked about outdoor spaces and activities and what was most important in school environments. Leading the way was playgrounds and sport fields, and then about tied was naturalized areas including trees, gardens, and nature play, and weather protected outdoor spaces. We also took the opportunity to ask about active transportation, noting that pickup and drop off can be quite congested around our school sites, and asking how we might encourage families to get out of their vehicles and start walking or cycling to school. Many recommended the removing of catchment boundaries to reduce travel distances, additional traffic calming measures such as speed bumps, and then walking school bus programs was also an option that many would consider to be helpful in this regard. We also asked about educational programming and future learning spaces. It was indicated that of greatest value to community were flexible classrooms and outdoor learning areas. And we also asked about what was important to people as we consider future school designs. The vast majority indicated health and comfort, including ventilation, cooling, and natural lighting, followed again by flexible classroom layouts. As we navigate building the actual schools themselves, we did want to survey our respondents to see how we could best address capacity challenges. Overwhelmingly, other than innovative solutions, people wanted, not surprisingly, new schools or additions on district-owned sites, catchment, boundary changes, and grade reconfigurations as part of how we address the challenges that we're currently facing. Grade reconfiguration was another area of interest to the board on how best the community thought we should configure our schools. In I guess first place, or we're receiving most support was the configuration of K to 6, 7 to 9, 10 to 12 schools, followed somewhat closely by K to 7 no middle schools and 8 to 12 high school. And then what factors are most important to you when students transition between schools? So another grade reconfiguration question. The most heavily responded to preference was maintaining strong peer relationships. Finally, when we consider school as a community space, we did ask how important school facilities were to support communities outside of school hours. About 80% combined answered very important to some important. So those will obviously help trigger how we plan for school usages outside of schools. These are very valuable pieces of feedback as we plan for new schools within our system, and how we also consider ways to get folks out of their vehicles. All again, really good data points for our consideration. Just like to thank the community for their input at the present stance. In terms of next steps, with the long range facility plan process, there is going to be an in-service, a private session with the board and our consultants to bring forward some recommendations to give them first sight and opportunity to provide feedback. There will be opportunities at coordinating committee, which includes all of the partner groups, is another opportunity, and then a more broader outreach to the learning community across the district to get another opportunity for public engagement, probably by way of information session. Again, the goalposts that we're working with are submission to the Ministry of Education by June 2026 for the 27-28 capital plan. So again, it's important that we have a solid set of recommendations that we're utilizing to submit to the ministry as to what our requested needs are for future years. Happy to answer any questions at this.
Thank you, Secretary Treasurer. I also want to thank students, staff, and families who took the time to respond to the survey. As you mentioned, Bettina, the public information meeting is end of June, or sorry, May?
By end of May, early June.
Okay, perfect. So stay tuned, and we would love to have you have an year what that really specifically is going to look like. Questions and comments from trustees? Trustee Carlson?
I'm impressed how many people took the time and how invested they were. That says a lot.
Thank you so much. We are going to move on to item 8E, the police partnership program, and go over to Superintendent Davidson for a little bit of an intro.
Thank you, Chair. So first I want to acknowledge two people who are here who have taken a lot of work on since the last time we met and spoke about the police partnership program. Safe and Caring Administrator Smith and Director Richter, who are here and who've done amazing work. They prepared a PowerPoint that they're happy to share. I'm happy to speak through this, and in the interest of time, it's the board can let me know, would you like the PowerPoint or do you want me to carry on? Would you like to?
I think we want to hear from networks that have been working on this closely and to have you guys come and present. Thank you.
Don't know if they were hoping we'd say that. Yes, please, but I know they put a lot of work in, and I appreciate that work.
Again, I just got to get, it was just sent to me.
Okay, yeah, we're just setting.
Yeah. Yeah. There is a way that you can speak with on the house. I'm just gonna try it really quickly, but I won't.
Yeah. Stanley.
No, I'll do the next.
Presentation's ready to go in, and we'll just give people one to next sort of find their way back.
We're up. It'll always be the same.
What happened? Okay. Yeah, we're going to reconvene this informal.
Right.
Yeah. And we'll turn it over to Melanie.
Okay, so.
Actually, can I just introduce you? This is Melanie Smith, our district principal of Safe. Geez. And Jen Richter, the Director of Instruction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
So thank you for the opportunity tonight. There was quite a comprehensive review of the police partnership program, including all of the supporting documentation. And a lot of the feedback identified a number of strengths, but also some opportunities for suggestion and improvement. And so the following recommendations that we're going to share with you were informed by a number of different methods of gathering the information from multiple partner groups. And so one kind of next slide, please. So the survey data was collected from, there was a survey that went out to staff, parents and guardians, the community, New Westminster School District community, and students. We also offered 2 evening focus groups for members of protected groups. And then there were a number of student focus groups that were held during school time across a number of different schools. Melanie will speak a little bit more to that in a moment. Next slide, please. We took a look at our key areas of input for both the students and the adult focus groups. We wanted to know their thoughts around clarity and understanding, belonging and safety, hopes and improvements, and kind of the experience for those that fell under the protected group categories. Next slide.
So key themes that emerged from the feedback, and we've put the survey data, the focus groups, the adults and the students together, because some very similar themes have emerged from both groups. So some pretty consistent themes that included trust in the program and the purpose of the program. The importance of a focus on equity in the program and its mandate, and the need for a strong sense of safety and belonging. We heard that particularly from students. Participants also emphasized the value of student voice, and we had tremendous turnout for our student focus groups, and it was great to see that they really wanted to be engaged in this conversation. And then lots of folks interested in accountability and what that was going to look like.
Next slide, please. So upon review of the feedback, there were a few recommendations for policy 28 itself. And those included, first, they wanted to kind of expand the policy's emphasis on human rights and equity to ensure that all members of the school community were recognized and supported. And second, there was a desire to see strengthening commitments to reconciliation and meaningful Indigenous engagement. And third, improving clarity around transparency and accountability and how the program would be evaluated over time. Next slide, please. The recommendations for the administrative procedure 192 focused on strengthening clarity and accountability again. And these recommendations included making individual rights more visible and clearly communicated, ensuring required training is consistent, and establishing some independent oversight. They also recommended emphasizing using data more effectively to inform decisions and improvements. And they wanted to make the complaint processes easier to access and understand for all members of the school community. So there was a desire around communication. And I think we should probably mention too, when we were gathering the information from the students, they hadn't had a chance to kind of review the documents. So they had a bit of a brief overview. So a lot of their kind of questions and worries were actually answered through the documentation that was already there. But these were kind of some of the thoughts that they were sharing and the concerns that they had as we were moving discussions. Next slide, please. The recommendations for the administrative procedure number 193 focused on protecting students' rights and strengthening trust. And this one related to the sharing of information. It included maintaining FOIPA compliance and clear administrative control, ensuring that student distress or wasn't treated as criminal behavior. And the recommendations also emphasize protecting student agency, improving transparency to improve trust, and making equity commitments clear and operational in everyday practice. Next slide, please.
Okay, I'll speak to the recommendations for the MOU. Again, lots of really thoughtful comments provided us with some thoughts about clarity and of purpose and scope. So, for example, why police presence is needed. There were lots of questions around that. When does police authority apply in the school context, and how does the program differ from previous models or models in neighboring districts? Defining authority and boundaries, I sort of mentioned that piece about authority, clearly wanting to distinguish relationship building from enforcement and making sure that student rights are protected inside the school buildings. Prioritizing safety and well-being, which we've touched on again, minimizing weapon visibility. The students, one of the most frequent comments that came up was asking about uniforms, weapons. Was it necessary for police to carry a sidearm in the school building? So lots of concern about that. And limiting policing in mental health situations, and one of the most powerful questions that we had was around how police would be working with school staff in situations that involved particularly mental health crisis, and would the staff intervention be first? And the students really wanted to be assured that that was going to be the priority. Again, strengthening equity in training, requiring pre-assignment training and anti-racism training, deeper knowledge around trauma-informed practices, and especially a focus on ensuring that police understand neurodivergence in the context that we have inside of our schools. And then finally, improving transparency, again, really focusing on that piece about clear communication to students and families about what roles are, what the presence means, how police will be showing up in our communities, and what access students and families will have to those partner officers. Next slide, please.
So one of the things I think we were really trying to be really clear about is this is very different from the experience that they had had in the past. And so we did want to make sure that we were coming back to the intent and the purpose of the documentation. And that was looking at prevention, education, relationship building, and support for victims of crime. And the feedback and the recommendations were intended to kind of slightly tweak or better align the program with its original intent and purpose. And that was highlighting these areas of focus. And I think within your redlined copies that you'll see, the suggestions that were made there were based on the feedback that was shared with us at that time. So I don't know if you have any questions for us around any of the recommended changes in language, or any questions about the feedback that was gathered. We're happy to answer them this time.
Trustees? Steelers?
Thank you. I'm really glad that we took the time to kind of pause and do this, have this conversation. I think it's really strengthening. Yeah, really appreciate the work. Thoughtfulness that's being lived. One piece that we had talked about that what I'm hoping to see reflected is there were questions around sanctuary schools, and looking, I think, for an explicit commitment that the commitments we've made to students with precarious immigration status, that those carry through this process, particularly around information sharing, and that, yeah, there's a lot of fear. There's a number of concerns, but are also just around fear of information being shared about immigration status. Through the chair.
I'm looking to see who wants to take that question.
So in conversation with the New Westminster Police Department, they have policy that reflects that in their own policy. We can absolutely embed that language in the MOU. That, and actually right? You remember the words?
No.
Okay. Find it. I think that there's language in there that reflects sanctuary sleep, but I can't remember. I've gone up and down through these things so often.
I see a reference to the sanctuary schools policy as well. Sure, but I don't see it in this.
Just the reference to the existing policies. Would you like language lifted from the policies and placed in our own AP? I'm wondering if that's a recommendation.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think being explicit is important.
We can do that, lift language from our policy and place it into the AP.
Yeah.
I support that.
Yeah.
I think that has to be in question.
Not for an
Not for
AP.
any, sure, it's just, we'll just take care of it.
Any other questions, comments? Oh, I have trustee Connolly.
You know what, I'm realizing mine are more probably related to the recommendation that's coming up around the policy. So I will hold off, but thank you very much for this presentation. That was very informative and certainly appreciate the time and consideration that's gone into this process. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And just a thank you for those who did participate in the focus groups. I think as trustee Russell said, the opportunity to pause and listen has been really important. And there are opportunities to continue to be involved in this. We actually included provisions for dedicated representation for students and parents, including those for a protected process on the partnership advisory committee. So if you are somebody who is interested in participating, then please let us know by sharing your name, superintendent. Okay, so we have a motion to approve the policy because that is our purview. So I will read the recommendation that the Board of Education of School District 40 Westminster approved policy 28, Police Partnership Program as presented. Do I have a mover? Second. Thank you. And any comment or question about the policy? Yeah, was your hand up.
Yeah. So I just wanted to point. Oh,
you. Thanks. Go ahead.
Good. Okay. Me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. I just want to acknowledge the fact that, you know, this is a program unlike any other district in human rights and the record from the Human Rights Commissioner. I certainly appreciate all the time and consideration that's gone into the creation of this policy. I think that we're you know, we have given it the time that it deserves and that it needed. I know we've been, it's coming up on a year, I believe, and I feel like that time was really important to get us to this point. And it's obvious even from tonight that there's pieces that will evolve over time, and I feel confident that we're all willing to make those changes and adaptations. So I just, you know, again, want to reiterate that appreciate all those who were able to and felt comfortable enough to come forward and share even in an uncomfortable, you know, dialogue, and also appreciate our police partners who, from everything that I understand, were willing to work with us within our values, of which I think many are shared. And again, this policy reflects our values and the value that we place in all our students and families. I think that this will overall allow us and help us to respond better to challenging situations within our schools. So I am definitely in favor of this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, trustee Carly. Oh, go ahead, trustee Andres.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that a little bit as well. And again, just thank you so much for engaging in those steps of bringing our students in and hearing from them as well. I think that was really necessary step and so important. I like the policies and the procedures. I think they're well written and well thought out. I agree that they attempt to mitigate the potential negative impacts possible of the partner officers through creating diverse perspectives and clear limitations and guidelines for partner officer actions. I also want to highlight once again that this program will not station officers in schools. And those were the concerns that I was hearing really loudly from our friends last meeting. Just want to state that again, right? This is not putting officers in schools. I wanted to recognize some pieces of the Human Rights Commissioner's report. We haven't explicitly maybe said in here. And so some key points that stood out to me, right on page 28, they survey local school liaison officer programs, and they asked Indigenous and students of color what they would recommend, and some of the same stuff that we just heard today, right? They said they would like to see removal of police officers' firearm and uniform, increased respectful engagement, and this I didn't hear, more sports programs. So,
We heard that too.
Yeah.
I might not have included those comments.
I think the piece that I just want to emphasize here is, as per the commissioner's recommendations, and as our DPAC rep said in the last meeting, if any students are harmed by a school liaison program, it should not exist. And I like that we have the flexibility in this program built into the document that this can be terminated in a month's notice. I think that is important, that if we recognize harm and we cannot mitigate that harm, we have the power to then end this. But I am hopeful for this document. I think it centers students and communities that have been historically negatively impacted by programs not like this, by school liaison officer programs. I like that it is not a reinstatement of this program. I like that there are clear accountability processes. And as a trustee, I do feel strongly it is the responsibility of governance to make agreements and have agreements with organizations that directly impact our students. And if we do not have those agreements, we do not have any say how our students are treated by these other organizations. And I think that is a mighty responsibility, and I'm proud of the work that's done. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Andres. I will call the question. All in favor? Thank you, trustees. All right, moving
Thank
to. Oh, yes, and thank you, Melanie. Thank you. Moving to agenda item 8F, we have Superintendent Davidson who will speak to Administrative Procedure 492, Conflict of Interest, Volunteer Coaches.
Thank you, Chair. This administrative procedure was developed after concerns were raised about the potential for folks who have interest in coaching in club context and other contexts, also coaching in schools, and what impact that might have on things like team selection, and the exercise of bias in getting people onto teams, or creating your school team and so on. The hope in the administrative procedure is to create safeguards and oversight and really minimize the risk of that happening. It's important to know that in our high schools and our middle schools, a significant percentage of our coaches are community coaches. Some of them, the only team they coach is the team at the school, but others are involved in club sport away from the school, as well as the sports being played in the school. And, the desire is to just set up structures to ensure that we're careful and ethical in the way we approach coaching practice in our schools. And this is not to say that we don't believe that the people who already volunteer are ethical and kind. It's about making sure that we have structures in place to provide a level of assurance. That's what that procedure is about.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any questions or comments from the trustees? Trustee Russ.
Just to say maybe that members of the board share our appreciation for volunteer coaches who put in so much time and make these incredible extracurricular opportunities possible. And I think that that policy frameworks like these are supportive of everybody involved, and are important. Yeah, making sure there's fairness and that the folks coaching also are supported with recourse, place to send people if there are questions.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, moving on. Oh, Trustee Carlson.
I just wanted to clarify, are there any changes that would affect current school-based volunteer practices?
No, it wouldn't affect the way a coach coaches in our schools. It does provide a little bit of extra set of eyes on who's present when teams are selected, so that there's feedback provided by someone who is not coaching the team. And there's also an expectation that there's a conversation about potential conflict of interest and that the principal is engaged in conversation and oversight to do their best to ensure that the work done away from the school doesn't influence the way teams are built in school.
I neglected to thank trustee Slynn and trustee Carlson on their work on the police partnership program. My apologies.
Trustee Belleville.
And former trustee Belleville, absolutely. So sorry about that. Thank you. Okay, we are moving on to agenda item number 9. First item is the chair report. It's a little bit of female apologies. I want to share. As April comes to a close, I just wanted to make mention and recognize and reflect on the many important and meaningful services that took place this month. It's really been a month of awareness and action, from celebrating Earth Month and Earth Day and making progress on our commitment towards sustainability, climate action, to honoring Autism Acceptance Month and the importance of inclusion and understanding. We also recognize many cultural celebrations and community, each of them rooted in themes of renewal and hope. And those opportunities really remind us of the diversity, resilience, and shared values that shape our district. I want to celebrate New Westminster Secondary Schools Athletic Director Peter Batista on being honored with the Citation of Excellence Award from the BC Schools Sports Association. These awards celebrate individuals and schools whose outstanding contributions strengthen school sports and student athletes' experiences within their communities. So thank you, Mr. Batista. And I also want to say thank you to Anne-Marie Martin, our admin support. It was Admin Professionals Day last week, and I'm confident that I speak to on behalf of the entire board when I say that we appreciate all that you do to make sure that our meetings run smoothly and on track. We are thoughtful and always make us feel like we are blessed. Thank you. Trustees, I also want to share with you, remind you that of some of our upcoming priorities, including policy updates in respect of the BCSTA policy recommendations that they've put forward. I know Trustee Russell is working on those. And I also had a call last week with BCSTA that included chairs, superintendents, and secretary treasurers, was specific to the election bylaw requirements that need to be passed by our board. It was a good overview of the roles and responsibilities of the many parties involved in local elections, including the province of BC, the Ministry of Education and Childcare, the Ministry of Housing and Municipal Affairs, the Local Government Management Association, Elections BC, BCSTA, and they also shared a template that we'll use to build our elections bylaw template. I had the opportunity to attend the AGM BCSTA this month and attend a pre-conference and keynote plenary sessions on governing through an election and board communications, as well as the AGM, were several motions, including one for our board. Thank you to Trustee Connolly and Andres for coordinating that, were passed. That puts the wheels in motion for our association to plan for and follow through with a significant amount of work, including a ton of advocacy work. I've had a few meetings with Mayor Johnstone, Minister Whiteside, Minister Ma on topics related to busing and new schools over the course of the month. And on that note, another item from in camera that I wanted to share publicly. The board supported the joint use agreement framework with the City of New Westminster, which outlines the terms which will lead to a joint use agreement that outlines the terms and conditions and responsibilities for a joint use agreement that will optimize the use of our joint facilities in the community. This was in camera because it is a negotiated contract with another party. This joint use agreement framework and ultimately the joint use agreement is going to further solidify our commitment of schools as hubs of the community with extended service, extended hours, and extended relationships. The joint use agreement will allow us to achieve this goal. So that is some great work that's been happening. And finally, just a reminder to our public that if you want to help name our new elementary school, please check out the link on our website. We do have a naming committee started. Trustees, any comments or questions about the chair report?
I just wanted to confirm the board supported the framework for the joint, so it's not,
That's
the joint use agreement hasn't been.
That's right. Just the framework.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to agenda item 9B, which is a motion to move us forward on Queensboro busing. I'll just maybe provide a little bit of a preamble and then hoping someone will read the motion. This is we know that the 3-year pilot provided a dedicated school bus has helped address the gap, but provincial funding ends June 30th, 2026. The Ministry of Education provided a one-time $400,000 transition fund to support our next steps. A one-seat ride or direct no transfer trip is a preferred long-term solution for reliability, safety, and accessibility. Sustainable solutions will require coordination with partners, including the City of Westminster, Translink, and the province of BC. The focus now is on moving from a temporary pilot to a stable, long-term transportation strategy for students. And so I drafted a 4-part motion towards a long-term strategy. I'm hoping somebody will, I'll read the motion and then hoping somebody will do that. So the recommendation reads that the board use a portion of the one-time funding to continue the current model. Families register for the service, pay monthly fee, and district contracts buses that go directly to NWSS for the duration of the first term of the 2026 school year. And that staff monitor current bus usage for contracted services through the remainder of the 25-26 school year and the beginning of the 26-27 school year. And that staff work collaboratively with the City of Westminster, Translink, and the province of British Columbia to seek a long-term sustainable transportation solution with consideration given to implementing a one-seat ride option. And that staff provide regular monthly progress reports to the board and that recommendations and potential options be presented as soon as it is possible. Thank you. And a seconder. Any discussion? Trustee Carlson?
Yeah, I wanted to say I'll be supporting the motion because it provides a way to ensure students can continue to get to school safely and reliably in the short term. At the same time, we need to acknowledge that this is not a long-term solution, and I do remain hopeful that more sustainable options will come forward at the provincial level. And I do recognize that it's been very frustrating for families. I want them all to know that we will continue to advocate, doing our best with the options that we have.
Yeah, I just had a question. Are you sure the 400,000 it's mentioned like at least one time or it's kind of parsed out? Is there any sort of graph showing like what it would look like if it was used one time, or parsed out over time, like and what those scenarios would?
Well, I wonder, like the motion contemplates using the funding to continue the existing service. So for half a year, can you tell us what that is going to cost approximately?
Sure, it's about half the funding that
Yeah.
we've received, 400,000. That doesn't contemplate any monthly charges from families that we collect. So by this motion we adopted, we would effectively be committing to the use of half $400,000 up to the end of the first term.
Something we'll have to consider too is that how our contractor will respond to the current fuel prices. So like a fuel escalator is going to be part of the contract, and that may have an impact on how far you can stretch it.
Okay, I will call the question. All in favor?
Oh, sorry. Hand me hand up.
I
know, sorry. I just wanted to say, like, along the lines of Trustee Carlson, you know, I we really have no choice but to be in favor of this. And I just wanted to acknowledge the advocacy work that's been done by the board, by parents and families, by the DPAC, and kind of acknowledge the fact that this is certainly not what was asked for, and what was expected and what was promised. But I believe that we have some room to hopefully try and find something that will work for students and families, and the advocacy. I wanted to assure families that the advocacy will certainly continue. So this is not an end, as it spells out in this as well, but this is not an ending place for the board by any means. So thank you.
Okay, all in favor? Thank you. All right, moving on to item 9C. The New Westminster Youth Hub, operated by Purpose Society, provides free low barrier support for youth ages 12 to 24. Services include mental health and substance use support, basic needs, life skills, employment, health, and transportation. The hub is a key partner at the New Westminster Situation Table, receiving frequent school referrals for early coordinated intervention. And strong schools partnerships have improved student well-being, engagement, and attendance while easing pressure on school staff. Federal funding is ending, and short-term funding only supports operations through to May. Without new funding, the hub may close, creating a significant gap in accessible supports for vulnerable youth, which is why I felt it was important to bring this motion forward, and just do some advocacy around funding. So I'll read the motion that the board direct the chair to write a letter to the appropriate federal minister and the local member of parliament advocating for the continuation of federal funding for the New Westminster Youth Hub, and that the letter highlight the hub's critical role in providing early low barrier supports to youth, its strong collaboration with the school district, and the significant impact its potential closure would have on student well-being and community safety. I will move it. Thank you, and a seconder. Any comments or questions on the motion? Trustee Carlson?
I'm wondering if we could include specific examples of impacts on students to strengthen the advocacy level.
We're looking at Melanie, if you have. Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I would just echo Trustee Carlson. Like, I think youth having another place to go, and especially youth that are maybe struggling or needing extra support, like, I feel like, yeah, the letter and as much background information to show the benefits and the positive outcomes that it has created in the lives of youth is vitally important. So yeah.
Yeah, Trustee Trustee Connell.
Yeah, I just thank you so much, Trustee Sluice, for putting this together. There's so much value to this program. I'm just wondering if, along with a letter, it might even be worth, and maybe this, I don't know if it has to be spelled out, but actually setting up a meeting with your, the local MP, and perhaps even reaching out to members of Purpose Society to attend as well, to facilitate a bit of a meeting, so that it's not just a letter, but a kind of in-person advocacy effort as well.
Yeah, I saw Jake about a week ago and asked if we could connect, and he indicated that probably next weekend he would be there, so I need to reach out.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. Thank you.
I think it would be stronger to invite folks from the program. I'm more than happy to do that. So let me see what I can set up. I don't know if we need to change the motion.
Yeah.
I'll just follow up on that. Okay, I will call the question. All in favor? Thank you. So you're going to do it one time in the end. Wait, we are on to agenda. There is none. And we are on to trustee reports. Are there any trustees interested in sharing a report this time? I will.
Trustee Charles?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to acknowledge and thank everybody for being here tonight. There's a lot of good news, but I think that part of tonight's meeting may not have been what families were wanting to hear. Some of the conversations might not be easy to hear, but I know there's a lot of strong feelings, and I truly appreciate that everybody feels that they could share, and I hope that you can continue to do that and know that we want to hear all perspectives. Even if we may not all agree, this is how we learn, this is how we grow. And I believe we are all here for the same reason, because we all care deeply about the students and what's best for them. I did like to mention about the recent BCSTA AGM that a number of trustees attended. I was pleased to support a motion advocating for the more equitable funding for the English language learners, ELL learners. The motion calls on the Ministry of Education and Childcare to remove the current 5-year cap of ELL funding and instead base funding on the actual student needs. This reflects what we are seeing in our schools. Students learn at different paces, and our funding model should reflect that reality. So I'd also like to thank the board for their advocacy on this and moving it forward, the support moving it forward. I'd like to take a moment to also thank our district staff, both those working directly with students and those supporting behind the scenes. There's a tremendous amount of work that's being done that happens every day to create all these fantastic opportunities for our students. Rather than listing the events I've attended, I wanted to focus on one that really stood out to me as reflecting the strengths of our district. And that was attending the capstone presentations at the high school. I was improved by the range, the creativity, the thoughtfulness of both projects. It was clear that the students felt confident in what they were learning and what they were sharing. I felt really proud of our students and grateful for the educators and the staff who actually have guided them every day. Again, and behind the scenes who are helping them feel confident enough to present. And as always, I will again remind all parents that your voice matters. Even on nights where there's a lot of emotion, a lot of work to work through, your voices help guide us and they keep us focused on what matters most, our students. So I will always encourage families to keep sharing your thoughts, even beyond the board table, because your voices do truly make a difference.
Thank you, Trustee Brookson. Trustee Connolly?
I just wanted to point out that I was at the NWSS PAC and I got a little sneak peek of results from the Student Voice Survey, and I'm really looking forward to those coming to the board. And also want to kind of give a plug to some of our arts groups are going to be doing year-end performances, and a lot of those are open to the public. So just stay tuned, keep an eye. They're active on social media, on Instagram, so you can find out more information there. And I just wanted to also point out, I was able to sub in on behalf of Chair Sluice to hand out 20 and 30-year service recognition awards at the Pro D Day on Monday. And it was amazing seeing these educators and district staff who were there, all with smiles, all very excited to be receiving these awards. So just wanted to give a shout out to those folks and thank them for their years of service and dedication to the district.
Thank you, Trustee Connolly. Trustee Andres?
Yeah, I just want to start with a point of personal privilege, just reminding us that according to our motions or our policy, that our meeting at 9 is supposed to end, and we are then required to then table until the next committee of the whole meeting. So I just wanted to put it out there so we're aware that that's our new policy, because before we did motions to extend. So just putting that out there. For me, I just want to point out the Climate Action Working Group. I want to thank the group. We drafted an advocacy letter to bring to the next open, didn't quite get their timing on climate action curriculum, and I want to recognize our DPAC president, Laura Kwan, who just presented to ECC PAC and had a motion passed on the same topic there. subject. So really exciting. And we're starting to work on some policy procedures. Thank you.
So thank you, trustee Slip.
Yeah, just a quick update on April the 16th. I attended the DPAC monthly meeting. It was a great presentation. Is it Misha? Misha Oak, presented about SOGI and the LGBTQIA2S plus community. And it was just a really great presentation. I was able to ask a question that I felt really safe in that environment to hear about his lived experience, and new ways to support our youth and our students. So it was just a great presentation. I was really happy to attend it. And then later this month, I'll be visiting Glenbrook and Fraser River to put on my poetry hat and work with kids to hopefully inspire them to write poems. So that's it.
Thank you, trustee Slip. Trustee Russell.
I'll just provide a very brief report on the policy work that is being done. Me and trustee Carlson and trustee Connolly and superintendent, and we're going to be working with secretary treasurer as well, just to tackle some policies that haven't been reviewed within this term of the board. But also there's a set of the sort of core governance policies related to the role of board, role of superintendent, that BC School Trustees Association are recommending that we review, and they're providing some really good templated language that's been developed provincially. So as discussed, that will be coming forward, hoping to have some work for the board in May and June.
And we are at agenda item number 12, question period. I think everyone was here when I read the brief earlier in the meeting, so maybe I don't need to do that. I will ask maybe first online if there are any questions from the public.
We got one.
Got one?
Yeah, Carrie Andrews, GB.
Oh, Carrie, Andrews, please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, you're good.
Perfect. Good evening, everyone. I'm Carrie Andrews, president of QP 409. I want to begin by sincerely thanking you for your work in developing this year's budget, particularly for recognizing the importance of bringing back the life skills program. This is not just another line item. It represents a meaningful investment in students who benefit from practical real-world learning opportunities. For students with diverse needs, programs like this go far beyond the classroom. They build independence, confidence, and essential day-to-day abilities, skills that will support them not just during their school years, but throughout their entire lives. The return of this program means giving students tools that will stay with them long after graduation, shaping how they navigate the world. I'm excited to see how this program develops and is rolled out with the right support and resources. It has potential to make a lasting and visible difference in the lives of many students and their families. I was part of the program when it existed years ago. I've seen how successful this program can be for those students, and I'm happy to hear it's coming back. At the same time, I would like to raise a concern about attendance management practices and their impact on staff. While accountability is important, overly rigid or punitive systems can have unintended consequences. They can create stress, reduce a sense of professional trust, and ultimately affect morale. At the same time, I would like to respectfully raise a concern about attendance management. Oh, sorry, I think I'm repeating myself. Additionally, the added stress of being closely monitored or feeling interrogated about absences can take a toll on staff's well-being. The stress can contribute to longer leaves rather than improving attendance and can place further strain on teams and students alike. When staff feel closely monitored rather than supported, it leads to disengagement, lower job satisfaction, and even burnout. This in turn affects the environment we create for the students. A positive, supportive workplace for staff is directly connected to the quality of education and care that students receive. Staff need programs and policies that uplift and support them, not ones that create a sense of pressure or micromanaged environment that people feel discouraged being a part of. As we invest in meaningful student programs, it is equally important to ensure we are investing in the well-being of the staff who make those programs possible. As we move forward with the exciting initiatives like the Life Skills program, I hope we can also reflect on how policies like attendance management are experienced by the people implementing them every day. Striking a balance between accountability and trust will be key to maintaining a motivated and committed workforce. Thank you again for prioritizing the students with diverse needs and for taking the steps will have a lasting impact. Thank you.
That was very well timed. Thank you, Sherry.
That's a challenge. Who's up next?
Phoebe has been.
It's a good thing I speak fast.
I know Phoebe has had the Life Skills Lab on your list for as long as I've been on the board, and so we're really thrilled that we're able to support that this year. And as for the attendance management program, I think when Superintendent Davidson spoke about this program being first and foremost about care and support for our staff. I think that I just want to say I agree that a healthy team is the driver for better student outcomes. And I think with that program run through and with care and support for our staff, we will not only support staff, but like you said, we will have better student outcomes. But appreciate the concern and appreciate the things to watch out for as we move on. Any other questions online?
Chelsea.
Chelsea, go ahead. Just introduce yourself and you will have 3 minutes.
Sure. My name's Chelsea McPherson. I am on the PAC for Lord Tweedsmuir Elementary School, and I'm a parent of 2 children that are currently attending the school in grade 1 and grade 3, one of which is an EFI. I know, thanks for all the information beforehand that you provided regarding the redevelopment or the business case that's being put together for Tweedsmuir. Mark, heads up, please be prepared for the PAC meeting tomorrow. We've got lots of questions, but one of the burning questions with the potential move to Stride Avenue, from what we understand, the Stride Avenue rebuild was done because the existing building was a high seismic risk. What has been discussed and what plans are in place to ensure the safety of the occupants of the building if we are to move to Stride Avenue School?
Thank you for the question, Chelsea. Superintendent Davidson.
So government is committed to doing safety inspections and making sure that the school is in as good a condition as a school of its nature can be before our students move into that building. When we asked questions about Stride to government when they first proposed that as a space for, they called it decanting students from one space to another, we raised that question and they indicated to us that there are hundreds of schools across the province that operate this way, that the school is a safe structure, generally speaking, and one that has been well cared for over time. And so we feel confident the government will do good work in that building before we move our students into.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Go ahead, Chelsea.
If there are families who are either not comfortable in attending the Stride Avenue School or aren't able to get their children there, will they be given priority for out-of-catchment requests to support their children's learning?
So in terms of getting their children there, part of our conversations with government, and we'll provide more information over the course of the next little bit. has been the provision of transportation to Stride for families who are currently attending Tweeds. So that is a matter we're working on with governments, and I think we'll have a solution for that. Got the other part agreement.
Catchment.
That's entirely dependent on whether there's space in the out of catchment area school, and so that would be a case by case situation.
Thank you.
Chelsea. Okay, I don't think there are any other questions online. So we will ask if there are any questions in person.
We'll keep up 4 minutes. Hi, my name is Laura Fong, and I'm the chair of the Westminster District Parent Advisory Council. Thank you for the opportunity to share an update from DPAC. We had a presentation from Nisha Oak at our April meeting. He attended virtually, shared an amazing parent education seminar on tips for SOGI allyship. We heard feedback from attendees that it was really well appreciated, and some resources were sent to us by Nisha to pass along to districts and leadership, and that has been done. We attended the BCCPAC PGM this past weekend, at which we had resolution put forward by our DPAC on climate action. We were very excited to report that resolution was adopted unanimously by membership there. It's titled Comprehensive Climate Action Curriculum with one small suggestion for AP 192, the new 7.2 provision. It looks like the list of protected identities has been struck and replaced with protected identities language, which has a specific meaning today. And we know that many groups in our province and neighboring jurisdictions are actually working actively to dismantle the definition of protected identities. I would encourage putting back in the full list of protected identities and also just adding protected identities, including in the list, so that if legislation changes, always in there. I co-chair a provincial committee, which represents a group of representatives from PACs and DPACs around the province, and we've been working together on provincial advocacy surrounding improved school facilities. We call ourselves the BC Education Facilities Committee. Our committee is preparing a letter to submit to the Select Standing Committee on Finance and Government Services for Budget 2027. We have a few requests in there that you might be interested to hear. We're asking for government to address the widening gap between annual facilities grant amount and deferred maintenance across the province, which is increasing exponentially right now. And that during these years of temporary enrollment decline, to not take their foot off the gas when it comes to approving and funding capital projects. As well, to fund improvements to school ventilation, new and existing facilities, and to address the concerning trend in districts selling land assets to achieve short-term budgetary gains through enforcement and strengthening of district education and childcare and district infrastructure policies around land dispositions. Okay, we have some questions around the capital announcement, which is why I just flew through all that stuff. We fully understand this announcement has just greenlit the development of a concept plan. This is very early days. You're at stage 0, but these are questions that we've heard the last 24 hours. And we're hoping that while it is early days, that you might be able to consider these questions in the planning process if we get them too early. So the first one off the bat, if it's possible in plain language to put out publicly on the website and communication with parents, clarifying right now what is approved and versus what is still a pending decision to be made, and perhaps maybe a commitment to regular public updates, as this is a large and complex project that has never been done in our district and our province. I know this might help reduce some confusion and misinformation that's going around. Regarding the Stride Avenue school location, as Chelsea already mentioned, we had a request to confirm the seismic safety for occupancy, whether a mold assessment has been or will be completed, and HVAC information around cooling that's there in the school or not. As well, how to meet the capacity needs of current Tweeds enrollment numbers at Stride Avenue. Its capacity is 387 students. I think Tweeds is around 400.
there's a portable needed at that site as well. Regarding transportation, and a request to put in writing, if possible, that provincial commitment for a no cost to family service that will be available for the full duration of the temporary relocation. That students with accessibility needs, as well as before and after school care transitions will be considered. And then there's also a question around the after school programs that the district runs, like Red Fox, if those will still be available during the transition years. And then for active transportation, if there is possibility to work with the city on a safe route to school or from Tweeds Catchment to Stride Avenue, and if the district would champion a new or temporary crosswalk at 10th Avenue and 18th Street.
Right, so I exchanged texts with the city manager about crosswalk today, which is interesting because I can't remember who raised it. My brain is not, as I said before. But yes, that's a conversation we're having. And everything you've mentioned are things that we've been talking about and thinking about. So absolutely we'll communicate. And we may very well miss something. And all it takes is to prod us and we'll find that answer. Sorry, I jumped in.
Okay, I'm almost through it. Okay, regarding the new school design. So moving forward, there's a request to consider implementing neuroarchitecture, which is a concept that describes applied neuroscience to creating spaces that support how people think, feel, and behave. So it's designing spaces for all types of neurodiversity. There were also questions around securing adequate play space. This is a huge student population on the footprint, and whether the district will seek formal agreements for park use. And we were thinking this might be time sensitive, as the city of New Westminster is currently undergoing the engagement on long-term planning for Grimston Park.
The joint use agreement contemplates those conversations.
And then there's a few questions around catchment changes. Again, early days, of course, but these are just questions that have come in, so I'm relaying them on. If we can expect 2 catchment changes in short time with Simcoe Elementary coming online, or if we can expect a larger district-wide catchment change after both projects have fully completed. And then lastly, I just want to share that we've connected with and have worked in the past with the TPAC in Burnaby. We've been able to meet already and chat about what this announcement means for our respective parent and caregiver communities. And we are right now coordinating co-hosting a meeting between the 2 school packs and TPAC at the end of May or beginning of June, hoping to provide an opportunity to build a connection between packs and school communities. And as mentioned, Superintendent Davidson, if you haven't already received it, you can expect an invitation to a meeting tomorrow night with the Tweeds PAC exec, and very much looking forward to your attendance. Lastly, shameless plug, BC Education Facilities Committee, we have produced a plain language document called A Resource Guide to Understanding BC School Facilities. You can find it on our Medium site. Some people listening in today might find it helpful. Kind of explains the capital process, layman's terms for all its parents. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak on behalf of my parents and caregivers in our district, and especially as this will be my last update as the chair of the our AGMs in May.
Thank you.
Thank you.
May I say something?
I'll say, yes, go ahead, trustee Combs.
I'd also like to congratulate Laura for being nominated and voted in as the treasurer of BCC PAC. Congratulations.
I'll let you.
Yeah, no, I just want to say thank you for all the work that you've done. Our district has benefited greatly from your passion and your advocacy. And wow, I thank you for everything. I'm sure I will have some.
Not going away.
Yeah,
nice
some
to
better
hear.
times here next month. Okay, are there any other questions from folks in the room?
I just wanted to raise a point of order. So we are,
Yeah.
no, this is serious. So we are in violation of policy 7,
Yeah.
right? And policy 7 clearly states we should be ending our business at 9, and we should be tabling it. So if we want to extend, then I think we need to put forward a formal motion for us to do that in the interest of good governance, right? It's important that we actually, that we follow policies, right? So
moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
I knew that was coming.
Yeah, and just introduce yourself and.
I'll take 2 minutes. We're at 2 minutes?
oh yeah, just
Hi, Don Doyle, QMS PAC Chair. I'm here just to share some fun information. The PAC has organized a fundraiser for our grade 8 grad. And we are doing an online raffle. And the raffle grand prize is, who wants to win WestJet tickets? Ooh. Oh, we have a parent that works for WestJet, and they donated 2 tickets to him live, and 2 on a regular flight. We hired called Raffle Nexus Company, and they're looking after everything for us, which is really cool. We put together a grad committee that brought in $4,000 worth of prizes, subsidy prizes after the WestJet tickets. So if you want to buy a ticket, send me an email at qmspack23@gmail.com, and I will send you the link.
hold on.
qmspack23@gmail.com. Now, our goal is $10,000. Why $10,000? Raising funds right now is really, really hard. So this is my last year being PAC chair. I don't have kids at high school, maybe the high school instead of math chair. But so I'm trying to leave some legacy money for other PACs that come in. So hopefully we can raise the 10,000. This year we'll use some of that money, and for years to come, the PAC will have some funds for really good grad for our grades. So that's why the PAC decided to go down this line, and hopefully, and the PAC will pick it. PAC will pick it up and run raffle. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Okay, final call for folks. Good questions. Okay, it doesn't look like there are any, so we are at agenda item number 13, which is notice of meeting.
Oh, so where do you do one? Sorry, one more.
There's one more online. Oh. Junior, you have, just please introduce yourself and you have 3 minutes.
Hi, this is Junior Chuang. Thank you for hosting this. I have a quick follow-up question on the Tweetsmeer project. Some of the communication that has been sent out are communicating that we are expecting the new site to host quite a large number of students. I'm just wondering if there has been any discussions around, given that we're looking at 2,500 students potentially. Has there any discussion been made to address outdoor spaces for these students?
You know, pass it over to Superintendent Davidson.
Outdoor spaces is part of the process. In terms of site design, it's also part of the joint use conversations that will happen with the city of New Westminster. And those have started in earnest already. And those conversations apply to public spaces and schools across the entirety of the city, inclusive of the Tweeds location.
And I think the estimated number of seats on that site would be between 2,000 and 2,300.
That's right.
Yeah, not quite 2,500, but it's a lot of students, for sure.
Thank you.
Okay. We will move on to agenda item number 13, notice of meetings. We meet on Tuesday, May 26, 2026 at 6 p.m. for our next open. And finally, we have a reporting out from in-camera board meeting. We're just noting the record of the March 10th in-camera meeting. And we are at adjournment. Do I have a mover and a seconder and all in favor? Thank you very much, trustees.
Thank you.